So you've been asked to draw a still life, and I have picked some objects because of their variety of height. The paper towels, the glass, and the apple. And it's up to me to find a good arrangement for them. So I can really play and just see what I like. But in general, I think it can be really beneficial just to try to figure out what really appeals to you. I really love that I'm getting that kind of light going through the glass. So maybe that's something that I'm going to try to do. But the paper towel is a little bit boring, so maybe I just need to kind of let a little piece of it loose like that. And then maybe I'll have my apple. How shall we have it? Kind of like that. Okay, so the first step in this project is that you are to measure out a 2-inch border, but I'm just really wanting to talk to you a little bit about proportion today. So proportion is just relationships, and it's like relationships between height and width. And so when I look at this and I eyeball, this glass is about half the height of my paper towel roll, a little bit under. And my apple is maybe, what would we say? It's not half, right? But just a little bit below that, just a touch below it. So that when I start to sketch this out, what I have to say to myself is, okay, do I have a border? Right, so, but you're not doing it sloppy like I am for my demo. You're just going to make sure that you measure it out. So we just want to make this nice and quick. Okay, so the next thing I can say to myself is I want to just think first about big shapes. I'm sorry, that's kind of like where there's a shadow. So I want to think about big shapes. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm not going to get into really drawing stuff yet. I'm just going to say to myself, what if this is kind of the height of my paper towel? And you can tell in the way that I've laid this out, I'm going to let my beautiful kind of paper towel swoosh go right out of the frame. It's going to head out. So it's going to engage that edge, and I actually think that that will be good. So I'm just going to go like this at first, and then the next thing that I can start to put in is my cup. And I want to really be careful of the negative space. Of course, the negative space that I see and the negative space that you see will be different until the day that I convince myself to wear a GoPro on my head while I draw, which might be coming soon. It's really hard sometimes to feel like I'm doing enough to make it so that you're able to see what I'm seeing. So I'm looking and I'm like, no, that's not quite right. It actually has to be more over here. So I don't fret about that. I just go in and make that adjustment. Okay. And you can see that just what I'm wanting to do is I'm wanting to start with the big shapes. The other thing that's really important to me is to stop and to check for just a second right now. Is this at about the halfway mark? It is, but I have too much of a full circle showing right here. This circle extended back into space becomes an ellipse. So it has to be like an oval up here for the top of the glass. And then however I draw that oval, it has to also have that same shape echoed on the bottom. And the same thing is true of our paper towels right here. There's this ellipse up here. And then it has to curve down right here. If we draw a line straight across, that totally deadens the volume of the form. Okay, great. We'll just take that out so that we don't accidentally include it. And then the last thing I'm going to do is say to myself, okay, according to my eye, my apple is just overlapping my cup, but not the paper towel from my vantage point. And I and start to add a little bit of shading to show me more or less what's going on with that. Okay, so to me, I've almost got this, but I actually made my cup like a little bit too skinny. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna come out here and I'm gonna, before I do anything else, just extend that cup. So when you're doing these drawings, I want you to play with your proportion as much as possible to get it towards what you are actually seeing before you commit to shading, so that you can have the most accurate drawing possible. So, yep, I added that. That seems all right for now, although I'm wanting to sort of sketch in where the shadow goes. The fact that the shadow is going to go here. Oh, no, not that high. So I'm just trying to just check the relationships between these things as I'm sketching them out. Now there's one last important thing. From where I'm sitting, I can see the line of the table before it becomes the wall behind. And that's happening right about here, as I can see it. So that's going to be pretty important for me to put that in right away so that I can start to establish my background. And of course, you're going to be doing this more slowly, really layering up your values, right? But I know that this cup is going to be one of the darkest things in the composition. So I'm just going to go ahead and darken that. And I can really see this beautiful darkness at the rim of the cup. Also in the base of the cup. So already that's starting to define my apple a little bit. I can see that this part of the paper towel is in shadow. A little bit less so here. A little bit less so here. But this part up here has a pretty good shadow going over the top. You're probably noticing how this changes with the sun. I wonder if my camera was just adjusting. Yes, I think the camera has made an adjustment to the light. So we've got a little distortion. I'm going to hold this up so that you can see it. So just starting to really pay attention to proportion. Don't be afraid to adjust. Happy drawing. So I'm not including this shadow because it's with the table. But anyways, you can see how you can take your time, and then of course I would go over this with a blender and I would keep erasing and subtracting and adding until I had what I wanted.